Hey, and welcome back to Real Housewives Recaps. Today I'm covering Season 4, Episodes 11 through 14, Real Housewives of Potomac. So, there's a method to my madness here. Season 5 is just about to start up, and I really want to finish the season before it does, so I'm just going to be hitting the highlights here of these episodes. We're going to talk about some stuff that happened, and yeah, I'm super excited because a lot of stuff happened in these episodes, so let's get started. Okay, so we pick up right after the hoedown. We have Candiace and her mom at, I would say Candiace's house, but I think it's her mom's house. They're working on the therapy that they had. Candiace to camera says, "Mom being in town is having an effect on how I process emotions. Our homework is a contract. They're writing out the behaviors that they're going to work on." And she says that they have no communication skills, which I get, because how do you communicate with either of these two? Then we have an intense scene between Ashley and Gizelle at Oz. To camera, Gizelle says she's highly concerned about Ashley. Gizelle says to her at the event, the first question that people had for her was about makeup, and the second question from everyone was, what's going on with Ashley's husband? Gizelle asks, is Ashley okay with the butt squeezing? Ashley won't directly answer any of her questions, so she can't talk about it. Gizelle says to camera, "Oh, I get it. You're trying to sweep it under the rug." Ashley's being super defensive. She's saying, "I know the truth about Michael, and that's that." Monique is having a sonogram. She's invited some of the ladies. Chris asks about Candiace. Monique says Chris was pissed at her for threatening to drag Candiace. Karen and Candiace show up. After the sonogram, Karen says she's concerned for Monique. Candy and Monique apologize to each other. Candiace says the wedding has caused a power struggle with her mom. Candiace says she expects that people will betray her, and that's why she acts that way. Gizelle has a really nice moment here where she takes her kids to the apple farm. She takes them through a maze, apple picking. She talks about their lives and their business and finds out that her youngest just feels a little bit left out. It's just a sweet moment. So we'll see more about this later. Robyn is getting her hair done. She's talking about the renovation project she's always working on. Same thing she always says, it's taking longer and costing more, hoping it will be done soon. Robyn said things are super good with Juan and that he wants to have another baby. She says she's considering remarrying him first and that playing house is no longer working for her. We see Ashley at therapy. She's talking about the allegations. Says that she has to be strong because if she broke down, Michael would feel bad. Again, I brought this up before. There's so many things that bug me about, Michael, but about Ashley. I feel bad for Ashley here because Michael makes everything all about him and, gets emotional and stuff. And poor Ashley, I feel like she can't even be upset. She can't even be upset that her husband groped somebody. She can't be upset about her miscarriage because Michael was crying. It's really sad. I feel for her. So Gizelle has a one-on-one, very sweet moment with her daughter, Angel, and Angel feels like she's just not important. Gizelle says she's a parent's dream. She never gets into trouble or gives Gizelle any problems, and she's realizing she needs to check in more on her. It's a nice tender moment. Ashley goes over to see her mom Sheila at her house. Ashley talks about fertility and that she just has had her dad on her mind a lot. She explains that when she was one, her dad left, and that she explains that the mom actually got her away because it was best for Ashley. We'll find out later and talk more about it, but it sounds like he was a real son of a bitch and they needed to get away from him. She remembers at 4 years old talking to him once on the phone. She remembers the interaction. Then she reveals that she sent him a message on Facebook and he blocked her. We got Candiace and Chris. Candiace says she needs Chris to find the spirit of joy, and silly. Since when is Candiace joyful about anything? So they go over to the restaurant. They're meeting up with Monique and Chris, and they're meeting up with Karen and her husband, and they're going to have a nice dinner. Monique brings up the Ashley thing and that she and Ashley met up. And it turns out it happened at the rainbow party when they were taking pics calling for Michael. It happened in the basement where no cameras are. What's weird about this is that's what they're saying. We find out later that's not where it happened. Part of it was in the basement maybe, but that's not where it happened. So I'm very interested to get into this. So Chris says that he was called as a potential witness. He says that he and Michael were talking that night and one of the cameraman's men walked in between them, and that's when Michael did it. Chris says, I don't know. He's saying he didn't see it. We'll talk more about it when we get to the footage because there is footage and it's so interesting. So in the next episode here, we find out that Michael Darby's complaint has been dismissed. Ashley is explaining that the charges against Michael has been dismissed. Robyn says just because something is dismissed doesn't mean it didn't happen. Candiace says money talks. Karen says question mark on him. Monique says she's going to support Ashley because she's putting herself in Ashley's shoes. Karen says zebras can't change their stripes. Ashley's walking around saying positivity prevails over and over again. She explains that Michael has addressed the outlets and set the record straight. They're getting ready for their Fox 5 interview. So then we see Gizelle. She's popping popcorn and she's going to watch the news. Gizelle points out the same thing I'm thinking, which is why are they sitting so far apart? The reporter asks if he did it. Ashley answers and says she was looking at Michael when this took place and that she would have seen it. Previously, they were acting like it happened when Michael disappeared from the photo, and now suddenly Ashley's saying she was there. Again, we'll see the footage later, and that's not what happened either. We see Monique with her podcast, Not for Lazy Moms. Ashley goes there to see Monique. Ashley to camera says throughout this process, Gizelle flipped on a dime. Monique has been there the whole time. Monique asks how Michael's doing through the process. Ashley says the ladies were reveling in this. So they talk about how the ladies were reveling in it. And Monique hands Ashley her phone and lets Ashley scroll through the text between her and Candiace. And this comes into play a lot later. Monique sent Candiace the article about Michael, said she saw it and she was laughing and she was right, and it's a whole thing. So I love Monique. I'm surprised she showed Ashley these texts, but I guess she wanted to clear herself here, so she felt like she needed to. We go over to Robyn, who's having a beauty night with some of her girlfriends. Gizelle and Katie come over. They talk about they're having a surprise birthday party for Wand, but he found out about it, so they're talking about that. Gizelle the camera says it's one man's word against one man's ass when talking about the whole Michael grab thing. Katie says there was a night that she went out with Michael and Ashley and her boyfriend Jacob, and Michael told Jacob, "I'll call you and you answer on your private phone." Ugh. They'll get into more of that story later, but Michael just gives me the creeps so much. Let's see. Robyn says there's no emotion or sentiment with Ashley. Katie says she doesn't get it. She's stupid and she's not very bright. Robyn says she thinks that they have an arrangement, and I'm kind of agreeing with Robyn here. I really wonder. I mean, that's between the two of them, whatever makes them happy, but for Ashley to be so blindly following and supporting and all, it makes you wonder. You don't know. So we see Karen taking Raven to a recording studio. Raven performed Amazing Grace at Karen's mom's funeral, and she just wants to record it as a special thing for Karen because it's meant so much to Karen's mom. They met up with Macy Gray. I love Macy Gray. I can only name one song she sang. Because I saw her here, I had to immediately turn on that song, that 90s song. I just love it. Oh, it's so good. Okay, moving on. Monique and Chris, they're getting ready for the baby. They're talking about Michael. Monique tells Chris that Michael said that he bumped into a cameraman. Chris said he's glad Michael got a chance to defend himself. Then it's the night of Robyn's party. Ashley and Michael are headed there. What's really funny about this is they only show Ashley in the car for a little bit. Then they play this really scary music, and then they show Michael. They talk about everything, and it's just so fake and forced, and it's so creepy. And Michael's saying that it affected his business, so now he's a victim. I feel so bad for that cameraman. Gizelle arrives at the party. She calls Robyn, says she's scared. Robyn's running late. That's just a running thing with Robyn. Gizelle greets Michael and Ashley. She says no charges and asks for a high five. It was so awkward and so funny, and I love Gizelle. Candiace and Chris arrive. It's weird with them, with Ashley and Michael. Ashley and Michael walk off. Juan and Robyn arrive. Everyone hugs. There's a nice moment between Juan and Michael. They hug, and everyone walks through a haunted house. I wish I could have gotten a picture of it, but I couldn't get it. But someone scary walks up to Karen, and she just flips them the bird. They all toast Juan. Gizelle talks to Robyn and Karen about how weird Michael and Ashley are being. Ashley tells Robyn thanks for inviting them. They ask how Michael is feeling. Ashley said he's worried you guys would use this as a way to come after him. She talks about the backhanded shade. Gizelle said it wasn't shade, it was straight up question when she came to Oz. So they're just kind of talking it out. Gizelle says you didn't say you didn't do it. So you said I can't talk about it. So I jumped to the conclusion that he did it. I love Gizelle. Ashley says half the time you acted sympathetic, half the time you're laughing about it. And all the girls rightly brought up that, well, Ashley, you were laughing about it too. All the ladies bring up that Ashley's acting like there's nothing wrong, and it didn't seem like that big of a deal to her. Ashley says the only supportive one has been Monique. Gizelle has this amazing moment to camera where she says, well, I'd be really nice to the one who has cameras where it happened. She has the footage. They bring up all the times that Michael's been accused of doing things like that. Karen says Michael isn't gay, and Ashley says no. They sing happy birthday. Ashley says she wants to go, that her head's pounding. So the episode then kind of switches, and we get to see production at the rainbow party. And then, you guys, we get the unseen production footage. Holy cow. So right there on camera, we don't get to see the grab itself, but we get to experience it basically. So the cameraman's there with the camera pointing kind of down, and we see Michael saying, hey bud, and giggling. You all right? Giggles again. And the cameraman immediately says, don't do that. And tells him, please don't do that. So obviously something had to happen here. How the hell are they going to explain that? Michael says, all right, no problem. And then he just walks up to Ashley like everything's totally fine. We see 3 hours later, they're arguing over if he touched the guy's butt. They're telling him, hold on. And Michael's trying to smooth it over and get a beer. It's so messed up. Holy hell, that footage. That's crazy. We all knew it was true, and there's your proof right there. So then we go into the next episode, episode 13. Gizelle calls Ashley, said she's trying to move forward. She invites Ashley out to her house along with Robyn. We have Candiace and Chris looking at real estate. Listen, this is crazy. This reminds me of HGTV, where you have a teacher and a butterfly farmer, and they're like, oh, what's your budget? $2 million. Same thing. How in the world? They're looking at this beautiful house. She's saying she wants to be out from under her mom. Of course, this house costs 2.5. And then they agree, they'll just stay where they're at. Yeah, probably a good idea. Then we have Gizelle meeting up with Ashley and Robyn. She shows them around, shows them that it's a fixer-upper. She's going to add a floor to it and do all this stuff. It's a beautiful property. They go outside and they're talking, and they bring up to Ashley. Robyn brings up that Katie and Jacob were making assumptions about Michael, and that Katie called Ashley dumb. Ashley said, this bitch smiles to my face. Ashley says she read Monique's text messages and how Candiace was laughing about the situation. Monique was being impartial. Gizelle asks, why would she show you the text messages between her and Candiace? Michael and Ashley go to dinner and it's just total denial fest. They're talking about blue skies and fertility and it's just so weird and uncomfortable. Then we go to the next day. Ashley's doing yoga. She said she thinks about her dad a lot. She looked him up on Facebook years ago and wrote him a note and he blocked her. She said it was hurtful. She has this nagging desire to find her dad. It's so sad. She calls her Aunt Sheila, who's her dad's sister. She talks to her about her and her mom coming down to Atlanta to see them and maybe find her dad. The aunt says you can't force people to talk to you. She explains that her mom has her dad's address and that the aunt is going to meet up with them. So we see a scene here with Monique. Monique is 34 weeks pregnant. She's struggling to move and get around. I love Chris. I think he's just the sweetest man. He's so good with those kids and he just loves Monique so much. And she plays the meanest joke here. I totally fell for it. I mean, it was funny, but it was mean where she pretended like her water had broken. He freaked out, called 911. She's like, no, it's a prank. So then we see most of the women except for Ashley and Monique. The rest of them have gone to a gala together. None of them know what the heck the gala is for. It's something to do with Katie and her mom, and none of them know. It's funny. So they're all hanging out and talking, and Katie says she forgot to invite Ashley. Katie's boyfriend Jacob says he tells the story again. He said that Michael says, if I make a phone call to your phone, you will answer it for me. Gizelle says she believes Jacob and the cameraman and the penis comment. They brought up that Michael also grabbed Katie's ex's butt. Katie says, what does she have without him? Talking about Ashley, again, pointing to that they might have some sort of understanding. Elle says she has some tea to share with Candiace and explains that Monique showed Ashley the text between her and Candiace. Candiace says, how do you know this? Ashley told us. Both Robyn and Gizelle tell her. Candiace says she's shocked and betrayed. Then we see Ashley and her mom. They're flying out to see the dad and to see her aunt and stuff. She meets up with her dad's sister. The sister says if I texted him, he wouldn't be there. So they're just going to go to his house and see what happens. Ashley's starting to kind of freak out, rightly so, because she hasn't seen him. And then we get it to be continued. So we go over into episode 14 here, open house and closed doors, and this is the saddest moment. We pick up with Ashley, who's going to see her dad. She's with Sheila, her aunt, and we get a note in accordance with state law. We're not allowed to film on the property, so it's really grainy, and basically you see that they try to say hi. They introduce Ashley as his daughter, and what happens? He shuts the door and locks it, turns off the lights. That is so sad. The aunt is trying to be sweet with Ashley. She hugs her and says, I'm blessed to have you in my life. So then we see Ashley and her mom in the hotel, and my heart breaks for Ashley. That's so sad. She talks about the letters she sent and all this stuff that has happened, and says this literally closes the door on that part of her life. And that's terrible. So to lighten the mood, the producers show us that Robyn is hanging out at Peterbilt. It's a big trucking company. And she explains that she's in the house flipping business and thinking of buying her own truck instead of paying people that have trucks to, bring stuff in. Gizelle shows up. It turns out the truck costs anywhere from $150,000 to up over $200,000. Robyn says she's in the discovery phase, which of course is a dig at Karen, who has been in the discovery phase for a long time with her perfume. They talk about the open house, and they end up driving a green truck and calling themselves the Green-Eyed Monster. It's kind of a funny scene there. So we go over to Candiace and her mom, Dorothy, and her sister, Crystal. They're going wine tasting. Candiace says they have to be conscious on how they communicate. Mom has to comment. Have you noticed this? Every time Candiace eats something, it's the weirdest thing. Candiace is tiny, and even if she's not, who cares? She's a grown-up. That's ridiculous. She comments on Candiace eating bread. Mom says she went to... Oh, yeah. So how about this? Crystal brings up the therapy, and Mom then says that she went to therapy to help Candiace. Karen and her friend get together. They're discussing La Dame fragrance. They get to see what the packaging is going to look like, and Karen's super excited about it all coming together. Then we go over to Ashley and Michael's house. Ashley's explaining what happened with her dad. She tells him about getting the door slammed in her face and then he locked her out. She's crying and talking about how hard it was. Then she says that Michael has had a bad relationship with his own father. It's revealed that her aunt hasn't spoken to her dad since 2010. She said 5 seconds of eye contact meant so much to her and she feels relieved. Michael says he's proud of her and that he loves her. Michael's a creep, but that was a nice thing to say. So then it's time for Robyn's open house party. We get to see the before and afters, and she did such a good job fixing this place up. She's trying to bring in potential buyers and celebrate the accomplishment. All the women arrive. They freak out over how much better it looks. Juan and the kids show up. There's talk of it not being in a good neighborhood. Karen even says that when she pulled up, somebody tried to sell her weed. Robyn asks how the visit went. She asks Ashley about it, and Ashley explained what happened. Again, it's just so heartbreaking. So then Gizelle arrives. And I love Gizelle, but Gizelle completely screws this up. When she arrives, Monique goes to give her a hug, and immediately she starts in on Monique. And it's not necessary. Monique asks if she's tired of being combative right when she walks in the room. And how about we celebrate Robyn for a sec? And I gotta agree with Monique here. I just think it was handled all wrong. If she had beef with Monique, she should have pulled her aside. So Gizelle says the reason she's set off is because Monique walked in being all fake. It's a whole thing. Ash recounts the conversation about Monique and how she feels like Gizelle brushes off the stuff Monique's going through. Robyn's getting upset because the ladies are arguing it can turn off potential buyers. So they're arguing. Candiace ends up arriving a little later. Monique and Candiace get into it about the texts between Candiace and Monique discussing that stuff that happened with Michael. Gizelle says she's never going to text Monique again and says it feels like you don't like Ashley, so I'm not sure why you're acting like you accept her. And Monique says, when I made the decision to accept her apology, I can't hold that over her head. Candiace says, I find it hard to believe you guys want to be BFFs. And Ash says, why is it rubbing you so wrong? And I agree with Ashley here. Why does Candiace care? She seems to just really not like Ashley, so she wants everybody else to really not like Ashley. Robyn meets with a potential buyer. All the women are yelling. They bring up the knife thing with Candiace. Robyn gets really pissed at Gizelle for starting all this, and the potential buyer walks out. Yikes. So then we see a flash of next time. It looks like they are headed to the Cayman Islands. I'm so jealous. Karen versus Gizelle. Robyn versus Gizelle. Then it's Katie versus Ashley, and they get into it a whole bunch, and then Gizelle comes running up saying that Katie left. So we will see what happens there. So I know that was a lot of information, but I just really want to get all that covered. So much happens in this series. It's unbelievable. When I compare this to like Beverly Hills where nothing is happening, it's just crazy. I love Potomac. I'm so excited to be covering this. I cannot wait for season 5 to come out. So thank you guys so much for watching this and for all your comments. I love talking to you guys in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on this. I also cover Real Housewives of New York and Beverly Hills and Below Deck Med. I'll be picking up Potomac in 2 weeks when it comes back. I can't wait. And you can find me at Real Recaps. And I appreciate everything and have a great night. Bye-bye.